Muad'Dib Usul. Maybe you could be from it. Maybe I'll show you the way.
Now that the Oscars are over, people are already talking about what may get nominated next year. Perhaps because it came out just days before Academy Awards '96, the top of the list is already Denis Villenueve's Dune Part 2. The second part of Dune was scheduled to be released last year, but was postponed during the SAG and WGA strikes. The second Dune was always going to be highly anticipated. Villeneuve has gotten huge stars. Timothée Chalamet was cast as Paul Atreides. And in the first part of Dune, Oscar Isaac, Jason Momoa, Stellan Skarsgård, Javier Bardem, Dave Bautista, as well as Florence Pugh and Zendaya and Rebecca Ferguson. The second part adds stars like Christopher Walken as the Emperor, Austin Butler, and Léa Seydoux. Dune has always been an interesting book series to adapt. Frank Herbert, who wrote the series, was directly interested in themes like human survival, ecology, and the history of colonialism and resource extraction, as well as religion and the ways in which powerful messianic figures can shape the culture in ways that are extremely dangerous to the benefit of those in power already. Dune is inherently political in a way that transcends any individual moment, but reflects every moment.
These outsiders, the Harkonnens, came long before I was born. By controlling spice production, they became obscenely rich. Richer than the Emperor himself.
An interplanetary system run by a far-off emperor and managed by houses such as Atreides and Harkonnen get their power from the ability to exploit and mine spice, the universe's most important resource, that is located on the desert planet Arrakis. This means keeping the Fremen, who live on Arrakis, weak and leaderless, the victims of colonialism on a galactic scale. The House Atreides, ruled by Paul's father Leto, was sent to manage Arrakis, having to leave their lush planet of Catalan. Jealousy and intrigue pitted the House Harkonnen against House Atreides, ending with House Atreides falling and Leto failing to assassinate the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, and instead getting assassinated himself, ending his power.
There's no satellites over Arrakis. The Atreides would die in the dark.
Herbert has Paul Atreides, who is now trapped on Arrakis with his mother, Lady Jessica, manipulating the prophecies of the Bene Gesserit, a powerful religious sisterhood, to declare himself the Messiah of Arrakis, or the Lisan al-Jaib, and then becoming an incredibly tyrannical ruler, the Emperor himself. A warning about the messianic power of religion and how it can be used to manipulate everyone. Frank Herbert and Denis Villeneuve were both also inspired by the story of Lawrence of Arabia. Among the influences for the Dune saga was T. Lawrence's Seven Pillars of Wisdom, another story about the desert and an outsider coming into a culture he ingratiates himself into in order to play the role of savior during a large-scale resource-based conflict. All of this in Denis Villeneuve's movies needs to be shown for a mainstream universal audience. In the second part of Dune, we see Paul Atreides attempting to fit in with the Fremen.
Don't try to impress anyone. You're brave, we all know that. Be simple, be direct. Nothing fancy.
Nothing fancy.
Hey, I'm serious. Nothing fancy, or you will shame my teaching.
I won't shame you.
His mother, Lady Jessica, a member of the Bene Gesserit, is pregnant with another child. She wishes to use her control of the voice and her status in the sisterhood to spread the notion that Paul is a Lisan al-Jaib, the Messiah, so they can control the Fremen and have their own base of support. Paul resists this notion, at least in the beginning.
Please listen, I am not the Messiah, do you understand? Honestly!
Fremen is split between believers in these prophecies, led by Javier Bardem Stilgar, but also including the entire southern population of fundamentalists, and non-believers, most prominently Zendaya's Chani, who see the prophecy as another one of the Bene Gesserit's attempts to control the population through religion and don't trust Lady Jessica at all. However, the Bene Gesserit are playing all sides of the conflict, unbeknownst to Lady Jessica.
The reason I'm telling you all this is because I'm playing both sides so that I always come out on top.
And they also reach out to the Harkonnen, with Austin Butler's Fayed Rutha taking on the Paul role if the Harkonnen win. Dune Part 2 is a story about the toxicity of religion, a ton of intrigue, and the power struggles within the galaxy.
May thy knife chip and shatter.
May thy knife chip and shatter.
Tonight's show is brought to you by Yabiga. Anyway, before I introduce the panel, please like this video and subscribe to the Movie Night Extravaganza YouTube channel. Hit that bell to get notified whenever we're streaming. Also, we are now monetized, so if you have any pressing questions during this live stream, send us a super chat, which helps me keep the show running, and which I am obligated by international law, human rights law, to answer. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Movie Night Extra. All of our after parties are on there forever. We also have a new Discord and a Letterboxd HQ account, so those are two more places to follow along with us. Links are in the description. Okay, let me introduce the panel. Conan Neutron, host of Protonic Reversal, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza, and frontman for Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends, neutronfriends.bandcamp.com. Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends has a new split LP with Lung, Adult Prom, available now on Bandcamp. Jay Underworld, illustrator, book cover artist, artist for Gives Them an Argument, co-host for Movie Night Extravaganza, and Bad Takes. Becky Rice is part of the year-round staff for the Seattle International Film Festival, celebrating 50 years, which is happening from May 9th to 19th, and this pass is available now, as well as the lineup announcement available at SIFF.net. Individual tickets go on sale April 18th. She's also on Letterboxd, Becky KR. I, of course, am your host, who may or may not be the Lisan Al-Jaib, Forrest Miller. Let me know if we're doing too much.
There it is. Got it in. Becky, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Hello. Yeah, thanks for having me.
I can say I think you've seen Dune Part 2 more than anyone I know, so I feel like you're very well suited to join us on this.
I watched it once.
All right.
A normal amount of times.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how many times did you really watch it?
Okay, so I've seen it 4 times.
I love that. That's great.
Part of that is I knew that I was going to watch it at least twice. But then when I was in Chicago, the Music Box was showing it on 70 millimeter. And I can't turn down an opportunity to see something on film, even if it was filmed digitally for IMAX and then converted to film.
Right. It's
kind
hard
of
to argue
silly
with.
when you actually think about it.
Well,
but I went to go see it anyway. So I might go see it again in theaters if I can see it in like true IMAX.
the real deal. Yeah, I was lucky enough that when I saw it at the Oriental Theater in LA, it was IMAX, 70 millimeter IMAX, and like it was the real deal stuff. And also, I'd never been to that theater before, even though I used to play shows at the Knitting Factory. The LA Knitting Factory that was like next door, and be like, wow, that's such a cool movie theater. It's so iconic. I want to see a movie there someday. And then it just happened to be that I had a morning, and I was like, oh, if I start that at 11, I'll be able to get to what I need to do for practice by the end of the day.
Dinner time.
Yeah. So
I can't imagine watching it in the morning. It feels like such a evening movie.
I did. I started at 11 a.m. and when I got done, it was like. It was much later. Let's put it that way. But it was great. I mean, it was beautiful.
I mean, I guess that's early to start dropping acid, but sure. Because that's how you do it, the way Herbert intended.
I got a mountain of spice. And your eyes are like
right.
Yellow blue by the end of it. You're like, oh, man. The sunlight's really going to fuck me up.
So Yes, drugs, everybody. Thank you.
This show is brought to you by drugs.
By drugs.
I should have had like this show is brought to you by Spice and had like the.
Oh, that would have been good. Yeah. You want to start over? We can just start the whole thing over.
Yeah.
Take it from the top.
Take it from the top once more for the people in the chief.
So did you ride a taxi cab afterwards like a sandworm?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. That's it. It's a.
I thought we weren't going to talk about that on the show. Like in my notes is the one thing that I said I don't want to talk about this.
Verboten.
Yes, I did.
I'm just imagining like in fucking New York City, you have like on the sub like like above a subway, you have to do one of the thumper things, and then you like hit it a bunch of times, and then the taxi bursts out of like, one of the like one of the vents, and then you like arrives there, and you're like, I called like the biggest taxi.
Yeah, you gotta get those hooks and you like grab
like,
on
Uber. I hate this. Things are going downhill.
Yeah, from and don't use Ubers.
There was that one. It looked like I don't know. I'm sure it originated on TikTok, but I think I saw it on Instagram where a guy like made his own sandworm. I don't know what it was, but he was like running around in the theater. And it was like, which movie is this guy here to see?
Oh yeah. He had like cleaning products or something. It looked like he was like riding it like this.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm here to see Dune. He was doing too much. That's the guy.
He was definitely doing too much. I don't recall a single thing we said on the episode we did of the first Denis Dune, of the fact that I talked some major trash on Hans Zimmer and Hans Zimmer Incorporated.
Yes.
Seems like he stepped in the game for this one. I was watching interviews with him, and he was like, "Oh yeah, this time we had like live instruments, and like my friends were playing."
Oh.
Like, friends are like
the score's definitely tapped down. I don't know what they did, if they were just like, dude, Hans, you need to take it down like 17 notches.
Right. You're at 11 and we need you about a 6. Yeah. Maybe they heard our episode. I don't know.
They got a couple of those rainmakers out too, like the rain sticks. They go like, shh, like they're like, can you just use this? It's not as loud as the, like.
But I think that this one is all payoff, and the first one is all set up, and I believe that in my heart of hearts, and especially on rewatch, which I guess a plug for the Discord. We watched it this week in the Discord. I guess that was this week. Jesus Christ, my time's all fucked up. But the I like first part better, which I enjoyed. Now that I've seen the second part, and do you remember when it was like, oh, I hope there gets to be a second part? Do you remember like when that was like the discourse, and it was like, can you imagine?
Well, now they're doing the same thing now with the third part. Now they're saying, "Oh, I hope Denis gets to like direct Dune Messiah." And he's already like casting it and stuff, and they're like, "I hope this goes through."
Becky, what were we gonna say there?
I never had a doubt. Like I understood that it was possible, but the second that it ended, I was just like, "Okay, great! I can't wait for them to start making announcements about who's going to be in the second part." Yeah.
Yeah, like it's like, come on, you really think there's not gonna? It would have to be the biggest bomb since Ishtar.
Yeah,
like
turns out
Ishtar rocks.
Ishtar does rock. We love Elaine May in the show, but it was not a financial success.
It would be great if they like could cast Kyle MacLachlan again and cast him as fucking the Timothy Chalamet role and just replace him,
like Kyle MacLachlan, not even de-aged or anything, just as he's looking.
No, him now.
Yeah.
And he's like, is this where to
He's
get?
Like, hello, fellow kids. He's got the hat all backwards.
Your friend just had him on. Randy just had him on.
Friend of the show, Randy Randall from No Age, just had.
He had actor / winemaker as his.
That was the hyphen. It's like, okay, dude, you just want to talk to Kyle MacLachlan. That's it.
He makes really good wine. Who would have thought? It's like Lynchian wine,
I liked Christopher Walken in the Emperor role, but how fucking cool would it have been if he would have got Kyle MacLachlan for that?
Christopher Walken in the Emperor role was a little bit distracting for me.
Okay, why? Why was that distracting for you?
Because he still had the Christopher Walken voice, kind of, and so like
space walking.
He didn't talk that much, and that's probably for the best. But like he's like, what do you? He's like, he's talking to fucking Florence Pugh. He's like, you've got the makings of a good leader, and it's like, oh man,
it's the God Emperor of Dune. Yeah,
who is Madib? We must find him. And it's like,
I thought it was a little less distracting than Florence Pugh's voice. Like whatever she was. I mean, I honestly like the only voice I really remember her from is the Black Widow movie where she has a Russian accent, and I don't know why that's my brain has assigned that as her default accent. So
really? It's the same, it's the same. It's the same voice she had in Midsommar. Like it's no, she has her American accent.
I mean, she's an actress, Andy.
It's a little bit
I know
different.
that.
Yeah,
I know that, but it's just
Oh, yeah.
Just
checking.
I get distracted when I hear her and remember she's British. That's when I get distracted.
Well, yeah, she's British.
Maybe it's just that she was doing an American accent, and I think because I have such an ear for accents, something was off on the accent.
Just accents.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I once embarrassed somebody
Follow
because he said he was from London, and I said I mentioned that he sounded like he was from not Hull. I'm sorry. I forget the city. Slough. I said Slough. This is before The Office came on, by the way. So I said Slough.
Story 1,000 times on the show.
I don't understand why we're hearing it now either, but there it is.
But I have an ear for accents, so like
okay,
if
let the
an
record
accent
show.
is off, I pick it up.
All right, fair enough. That's
So the Christopher Walken thing is just I can't see him as anybody except for Christopher Walken. You know what I mean? Like he's just so ubiquitous in every movie that he's been in that when I see him, I'm like, oh, that's Christopher Walken. I think he did a good job, and I really like, now that he's kind of older and his body is like a little bit more like, I guess saggy is the right word, but like.
But he has presence, so he works as
but like when he's totally lost control and realizes he's totally lost control, he's just in the room surrounded by guards and like realizes that like Paul Atreides isn't gonna like no matter what, like he can get to him, and he has like just kind of like that dopey expression on his face. That was perfect.
Yeah, and I think that whole arc worked a lot better than it did in the De Laurentiis Lynch Dune, where it seemed almost like Flash Gordon style or something, like with
Turkish Bay showing up,
right? and that is and I as you know, I have a soft spot in my heart for the De Laurentiis Lynch Dune, but it's not objectively a great movie. It's like enjoyable.
People are trying to rehabilitate it because the whole cast is white. And there's people that are like, well, this Dune's too diverse. It's woke. Dune's gone woke.
Wow, is that? Did you just make that up, or is that real?
No, I didn't. Sure. I was scrolling on Twitter, and somebody took the like the Sean Young version of Chani, and then put it next to like Zendaya, and they're like, there's something about Sean Young that's just better than Zendaya in this role, and I was like, yeah, because. You like that she was white, like you can say that. Which the Fremen, I think the Fremen should be more like kind of Arabic looking.
I thought that was a wonderful change. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And especially now that when we covered Lawrence of Arabia too, it's sort of like which we did recently. We did that earlier in January, Becky, at the end of Adventure Month, and I kind of dig it because I had never seen Lawrence of Arabia, so like obviously I know what it was, but like. Seeing that in context too, and then we were talking about, like Alec Guinness. It's kind of unfortunate that it's like, oh yeah, couldn't find a guy that was racially appropriate, huh?
Yeah. Well, they already cast Omar Sharif in that movie. Where else are they gonna get another?
Yeah, we already got one.
Well, I like we found the clip where they were like, we didn't even really think that in Egypt we didn't think of like casting a Middle Eastern actor to play this role, and it's like, really, you did like that never even crossed your mind, you fucking British people.
Yeah, we looked all over this room that we're in, and we couldn't find a single one.
No, they said originally the Omar Sharif role was going to be played by a French actor, and they're like, the French actor dropped out, and then we saw like, well, he's Egyptian, that's close enough. And it's
whatever.
That's I guess we could have him play somebody.
Becky, what do you think about the casting for this one? Because this is kind of a cast of thousands.
Yeah. Can you be more specific? Because there's like 1,000 cast members in this film, so can we
I mean, you don't need to give like individual thoughts and everything.
What do you think of background Fremen number 14?
Right.
I love that guy.
14 rocked.
Yeah, 14's my guy. Yeah, he's great. Well, I was a little bit skeptical, probably the nice way to put it, of the first one, of Timothée Chalamet having the sort of fortitude to pull it off, But then the theory I had was that it was like, well, he's being a good Paul, but he's going to become Muad'Dib. So if in the second one, if like he's still kind of wooden and kind of lame, then okay, we're going to be running into problems. But I feel like he stepped it up big time as okay, so that's kind of like he was acting, good, because he's no Kyle MacLachlan. Let's put it that way, in my opinion.
No.
He can't even make wine yet.
doesn't even have a winery. How could he be Muad'Dib without a winery?
The only whining he did was in that other movie.
Lady Bird, Don't Look Up. You have to be more specific.
Yeah, just pick the movie.
It is funny that he was like generic skater boy for the longest time, and now he's in literally every movie all the time. Always.
Yes.
And it's the law. It's enforced by law.
Where they don't even have skateboards.
Right, exactly. He's skating on worms now. So
I think that Dune and Dune 2 have kind of like locked in that he has it, He can be in and carry a pretty wide variety of performances. He's choosing really interesting work. If you look at some of the stuff that he's done, and then it's like, okay, great, now it's time to do your little blockbuster thing. This is still kind of like a little weird one.
Yeah.
I think he's great in it. The thing that I think worried a lot of people, and when you were talking about like him being Paul versus him like growing to like become like this leader of people, it makes me think a lot of like Batman, where like George Clooney is great at being Bruce Wayne and he is not very good at being Batman. And most people are good at pulling off one or the other, and then Christian Bale, just like absolute slam dunk, was really great as both.
Right. That's a good point.
And I was a little I didn't not believe, but I was a little nervous. It's like, yeah. I was gonna say, like when your kid, I don't have children, so I don't know what I'm talking about. But like
right.
When your kid is like in the talent show and you're like, I believe in them and they're gonna crush it. But then the second that they walk out on the stage, you're like, oh God, I'm nervous.
Right. Don't blow it.
That's how I felt. But Timmy did it.
Yeah. No, that's I think that's pretty astute, and especially the idea of the good Batman versus the good Bruce Wayne. That's a boy. You could do a whole podcast just on that. Really, I mean, I
feel like that's also perfect because like Michael Keaton is kind of like Kyle MacLachlan in that sense, right? Like he's somebody that is good at doing like a different Bruce Wayne and Batman.
Right. Mm-hmm. Which now people are of course going back to and being like, oh yeah, he was great in that. Like, well, yeah. Where were you? I mean,
I remember being like the only person like singing his praises, and
some of them probably the answer would be not alive yet.
Well, okay, fine.
If it's on social media,
fair, but okay, don't.
Yeah, I mean, my kids actually started that fan site, so there you go.
Well, I'll just be over here on my GeoCities page, okay?
No, I'm just saying, whenever you see kind of weird discourse online, like. I'm like in my head, I'm like, half of these people have got to be teenagers, right? Like,
yeah. Well, I've definitely gotten like pretty serious conversations with folks on Letterboxd that I'm like, oh, you're literally a child, like you're like in high school, but like you're like have all these like advanced cinema stakes, but then like you've not seen some of these movies because you're like, yeah, whatever, not even like 18 yet, and like that's bizarre because it's. I mean, good for them. They get started early. Just like how like used to be with music that you had to be like me and like work in a record store or something to be able to like find like interesting. And now all you need is an internet connection or just a phone, and
or a good older brother.
Well, you still need a guide, sure. I mean,
yeah.
But that's kind of
which I did not have. Just in case people were wondering.
Okay, let the record show.
Well, I saw like even like Allie posted her like review of Dune 1 and was like, there's a lot of stuff in there that like I have no like understanding of like the world that they were building there. Like you saw like she's read Dune or whatever. And she's like, so I was a little bit confused the whole time, but I'm just gonna rate it a 4. So she's like, I'm sure the next one will be good. Like,
I always a crack up. She's another person that's been on the show, and she's on the younger side. I think she's like 19 or something, right? It's pretty.
I think she's 21.
She looks like she's 11. To put it bluntly,
I think she's 21 now, like just now. Yeah. Because he was posting pictures with her with like alcohol, being like, I can legally drink this now. But yeah, when she came on, she was like 20 or 19 or something. Christ. But but yeah, like I think that there is. I think this movie is all payoff, and I feel like they've given you everything in the first one, that like all of like the names and like the stuff you're supposed to kind of get a handle on beforehand. And there's so much of it at that point. And Dune came out long enough ago that it's like maybe not as much in the popular zeitgeist at the time of the movie coming out. You know what I mean?
Because it came out during the COVID, like it did the big home premiere. Max, the one to watch. Did a big home premiere of it, and it was so a lot of people saw it maybe they wouldn't have, but they saw it in a weird way at like a weird time that like all kinds of stuff was coming direct to streaming. And meanwhile, there's no previously on Dune kind of like recap or anything. So
I had one of those.
Did you really?
Yeah, Alamo Draft House. They do like these like pre-show things. I am sponsored by Alamo Draft House.
Right. Becky Rice is sponsored by Alamo Draft House.
I'm not, but I'm manifesting. When I was one of the many times that I saw Dune, so I kept seeing it in different places because I was traveling for work. And so every time I was in a new city, if I had time, I would go see Dune. And so I saw it at the Alamo Draft House.
Right? Yeah, you would just go to the local Alamo Draft House in every city, and you're like,
they have them all over.
Yeah.
It's very convenient.
It worked.
You can really remember the Alamo that way.
But like, so I went in St. Louis. I saw it like in like the big show, and they do their little like pre-show thing. And one of them it was this little like video. And it was like previously on Dunes, and it would show clips even from like the Lynch Dune, and it was really interesting to see like how different, and like to see some of those like cuts side by side. Because even as a person who, I think at this point I've seen the first one 7 times. I've got to stop saying stuff like that out loud. But I've seen the first one like 7 times now.
So it's okay. You're on this show. You are
it's a safe
accepted.
Space. Yeah.
You are get safe here. You can say that. How
keep
many times
back.
you've watched Michael Keaton's Batman?
Dude.
I have no count. The thing is about me and Dune is that I really love it. It's good. But also like I'm a member of the Dead Dads Club. And my dad really loved Dune. And my dad was really into fantasy. And that is just not my bag. Like I've always been a nerd, but I was very into like sci-fi. And so things that we could agree upon were things like Dune or Alien, like things that, involve space, but maybe don't get, Dune gets pretty into the weeds with some of the stuff. But Alien and Aliens they're just horror movies that are set in space.
Jaws in space in a good way,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And so what he kind of would check out.
This one felt like it leaned a lot less heavily on the space part. Do you guys?
A little, yeah. It could be anywhere.
Yeah. Anywhere with the desert.
And that's kind of the point, right? Like,
and you don't even need to really know what the spice does, other than the fact that everybody wants it. That's all you need to know. Everybody wants it, and that's like the big deal. And they
want it, they love it, they gotta have it.
They gotta have it. Exactly.
There's like the made-for-TV version, not the made-for-TV version, but the TV version of the Lynch Dune actually added an hour explaining like the entire history of spice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Which
it's
nobody asked for or really wanted.
Like, who cares about the Butlerian revolt?
Christopher Columbus accidentally landed on the planet of Arrakis.
Yeah, exactly.
He thought he was going to India.
So your dad was a Dune head, is what you're saying?
Like,
that kind of
stuff. Okay. And so
just to put us back on track.
Yeah, I think I was in like middle school maybe, and I was like, I want to read Dune because I had a very elevated reading level.
Yeah.
And my dad literally, he was like, no. He's like, you're 11, 12 years old, and I know that you can read the words and I know that you can understand the plot, but I don't think that you've experienced living and life enough to really understand what it's trying to say. And so I would rather you wait until maybe like you're in high school. And so I was like, okay, and I proceeded to like read The Hobbit, and I liked that enough to where like we could like bond over that, and talk
Yeah.
about that. And then I think I was maybe like a sophomore in high school when I read Dune, and I definitely looked at it and was like, wow, I'm glad that I waited to read this, because the difference between reading something as like a 13-year-old versus reading something as like a 15 or 16-year-old, it's not very much time, but what you've seen like in the world, or like paying attention to the news, or like the political spectrum of the world is just so different.
Even like history classes, I feel like.
Yeah.
In middle school, you get like a very, I mean, not that you don't get like a basic 101 history in high school, but like at least you like have kind of the understanding that like, okay, like there is a history of people wanting, different spices and like different things from parts of the world that they kind of just appear on and like subjugate the people there. And even that like amount of knowledge, like is like, okay, I get what they're trying to do, here.
Or even like what they want it for and what they're using it for is very different than what the Fremen utilize it for.
Right.
And that's important, and I genuinely think that like as like a 13-year-old, I would have understood what happened, but even that specific, I would not. It would just like.
And that kind of gets into like the concept of like indigenous people, right? Like, which is not, there's a very different story of indigenous people. I think you learn in like middle school than what you learn starting in high school. Where it's like, in middle school, you might learn like, oh, we all kind of held hands and had Thanksgiving and stuff. And then kind of the natives went away. And like, that's the history at the beginning of America. And I think there's like a much deeper understanding when you start getting into high school, like, oh no, like this is a long period of time where subjugation is a part of, what we actually wanted to do to the Native Americans and how they suddenly went away. Right. And they're living on reservations and stuff. And like in the same way, like I know that in Dune, eventually he has like the fucking Fremen living on basically reservations, like he's calling them museum Fremen, and he has them like they're all fucking just spiced out, and he uses spice in that way too, which is kind of like, oh man, this like really on the nose, but okay.
yeah, but also and there's the political machinations too. That's a lot to handle if you're like a little bit I think on the younger side too. You're not going to understand what's up with the Bene Gesserit? Like, what are they doing? Like, what, and that's where it gets into, the more you understand for the source material, it's easier to understand in the books, but those are some pretty advanced concepts to try to get over in a movie, essentially about people in the desert and worms.
Yeah.
It's such a wild thing in my brain to have watched part 1 and part 2 and be like, wow, not only did I watch this, it makes sense. And I think that even if I hadn't read it, it still would have made sense. I understand what it's going for. And it's wildly popular. This just incredibly dense book that is a lot of internal monologue dealing with these like incredibly complex themes. And they made a really good movie out of it that a lot of people are watching.
Yeah.
I have this clip of Denis talking about the relevance of the book. And like some of the ways that he kind of tweaked it to make it, I think more adaptable, I guess. Because for the longest time, Dune was like unadaptable, and I think a lot of that had to do with the David Lynch version of it, where David Lynch was just like, I don't know, throw in whatever there, like.
Yeah,
we need some Toto right here.
To be fair, I think that the Toto section is deployed really, really well in that film. But
absolutely, it's just absurd.
It's completely absurd. He's absolutely. I mean, and well, the nice thing about this one is, I feel like it gets all that across without it doing like the Star Wars prequel thing, where it's just sitting there like telling you stuff. Where it's like, okay, so you're just gonna do an exposition dump on me, huh? Okay.
So there's this thing called the Senate.
Yeah, the Imperial Senate. The trade has been stopped at. Oh my God, Jesus, shoot me.
The Fremen have a nationalist council that they're kind of all getting into, and they're some of them are ideologically, more leftist. Some of them are more on the right. We don't have to get into all of it, but this is the beginning of the movie, so you have to know. You have to know the political spectrum of the Fremen.
Right, exactly. Who's beefing with who?
Eras of cinema history that I feel embarrassed that I could not talk right now about, because there's so much more to learn all the time. And it took me a while as a filmmaker to finally feel that I was in a zone where I was shooting and that it was coming outside myself without trying to find a space where I felt that the outside voices were not too loud. I think the first time I felt that was what my fourth feature film, Incendie, where I felt that I was finally home. Before that, I felt that it was like there was too many people talking in my head. And of course, it's like to say that I can shut the door completely, and of course, I'm the product of multiple influences, but I try as much as I can to approach reality with a camera like if I was the first one doing it. Otherwise, it's too castrating. Can we say in English? I don't know. Is the word
Whoa.
castré? Castra. It means that you understand. Okay.
Brad.
Yeah, it's the idea is that's why I know a lot of directors love to share movies with their crew before to guide them. Me, I try to do the opposite. I tried really to go away from any cinematic references and go more into documentary photography or painting or music, or trying to find different ways to bring images to the surface. Yeah.
I was thinking about the movie that wasn't on your list, but was Battle of Algiers, because obviously this all the battle scene, but also a lot about the topics in terms of resistance and guerrilla resistance and the colonialism and fighting against imperialism. But I guess you couldn't share it with your crew because we were not allowed to watch movies.
But the thing is that it's the Dune is as through the years the book became more and more relevant. It was written in the 60s, and as you all know, and then it's the more time passes by, the worse it gets. I think so. It's like the book is more and more relevant, and yeah, that's what I was saying.
I mean, it's nearly a documentary of current times, in a way.
But it's there's topics in it that I'm really fascinated by. One of them is the alienation of religion, where I feel that's where it's for me. The influence mostly is coming from home, where before the 60s, where I come from, religion and politics were blended. The church had tremendous power over the population in Quebec, until there was something called the Quiet Revolution in the 60s, where there's artists and intellectuals that there was a movement that decided to separate church and politics in order to people because politics is about nuances and compromise and trying to find solution together instead of the absolute and black and white of go to hell or to paradise. It's like so there was something there that I think that I was touched by as a filmmaker.
Yeah, I mean the comments about organized religion and prophecy and the false messiah or real messiah, it's quite strong, but it's also very relevant about what we can see today.
When Frank Herbert wrote Dune, when the book came out, he was disappointed how the readers. He felt that the readers misunderstood him. That people saw into Dune the celebration of a hero, of Paul Atreides, and for him, he wanted he wanted the book to be a warning, a cautionary tale regarding messianic figures, and in order to correct that perception, he wrote a tiny book called Dune Messiah that is almost like an epilogue to try to correct the perception, and me knowing that I did my adaptation, not trying to be faithful to specifically part 2. I was not trying to be faithful to the book, but more faithful to Frank Herbert's initial desires.
Nice. Yeah. Well, because that's one of the biggest complaints, right? Is that like, oh, it's white boy savior. It's like, well, that's not the point though. the point isn't like, hey, look at this cool guy doing cool guy stuff. It's that like,
you're supposed to look at it and understand. There's such like a lack of media literacy
Yeah.
like right now. Like just because a filmmaker shows you something, that's not an endorsement of it. Like that scene where he's explaining to Chani, like, oh well, my little videos said that the best way to do it is this way. Like you're supposed to look at him and be like, shut the fuck up. Like
Shut
she
up,
knows
Donnie.
better than you do.
Yeah.
They don't need to just come out and tell you that like in the film. Like you should just be able to pick that up and read that. And I don't know, I think it's very apparent that he took all of Dune and like all of Frank Herbert's like ideas as a whole when crafting this film, because I think the biggest change we see in the movie to the books or to the previous movie is Chani's character.
She's skeptical. She's critical. In a big way, which is important because again, everyone else is not. So you get to, like, by contrast, you see that okay, this is the beginning of this messianic aspect of it, and that again, it's not that that Paul's a bad guy or anything, but he's being put in a position of power and is starting to get like drunk on that power, so to speak.
I also really like that they divide it up, so it's like there's like a small group of non-believers that are like younger and like are from the north, and they divide it up to like the south where the fundamentalists are. It makes the world feel far more lived in. I think that you're experiencing this thing where it's like well, like whenever you kind of divide people in two, and then you're like, well, the people over there on that side, like they're a lot more intense and they're kind of like fundamentalists, which it's like, well, we have fundamentalists all over the place. You know what I mean?
And
like,
they're in the South too.
But no, it makes the world feel a lot more limited. Even if they're not going immediately to the South, you're like, okay, well, there's a different part of this world, right? Like it's not just this one spot that they're standing on. And the more you do that, and the more you kind of divide people, and the more you add kind of like politics and like religion into it, the more I think lived in the entire world feels like.
Because it is a whole planet, right? And there was something. Yes. As much as I like the visuals of it in the De Laurentiis Lynch Dune, it kind of felt like it was all like one city or something. Like it was sort of like you never got the idea that it was like planetary, despite there being spaceships up the wazoo and aliens ran around this way and that way. Like you never really got that feeling, and maybe that was a victim of the special effects of the time. Who knows what it is, but that really gets across in this way.
It's only 2 hours versus this is like
to tell the
8
whole
hours
thing in 2 hours. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
The time allows you to do a lot more stuff for sure.
And I like the whole thing where you see the planet, like the Harkonnen base, that you see like the planet, and you see like the different aspects of things. And even if it's not being like, oh, that's so and so, those are the people that live. It's not doing a Vox explainer on it about it for you, but it's enough that you get the context pretty easily.
Yeah. The one thing I liked about this movie too that they didn't do in the first one was the color grading and the different planets.
The Harkonnen planet's so freaking cool looking, man.
Yeah, because like the first one, when they were on Caladan, it was very like the same color grading that they used for the entire film. Right. So everything was kind of brown and washed out that way. And I was just like kind of disappointed because like, Caladan's supposed to be this water planet, and like why aren't you using like blue filters on everything, like while you're there? Because like one of the I remember seeing this when I was a child, so like this blew my mind when I was like 6. But like it seems like just like basic 101 storytelling as an adult. But when George Lucas did work second unit on Return of the Jedi, one of his keys on the film was trying to make sure that Endor, Dagobah, Tatooine all looked very different by having just different color schemes in each planet. Right. So like when they were in space, everything was black and white. Yeah. And like down to the costuming and everything.
Right.
So it was a very intentional thing on his part. And like now with color grading, like it's such a subtle thing you can do just to tint everything a certain way. I always kind of like I was surprised they didn't do it in the first one. I was kind of disappointed, but I loved what they stepped it up, and I think
made up for a big time in this one.
Yeah, because it opened up with that during that solar eclipse where you had those blue undertones to the reds. Like I fucking love that color scheme.
Yeah, so I have a clip of the cinematographer talking about this.
Oh hell yeah.
And he's talking about like because I guess there was a little bit of like tension about like whether the color grading they did on the like Harkonnen planet, like whether that was actually going to work, because the inverse colors they thought were too much, which is funny that now they're thinking about it too much, right? Like might not be thinking about it as much in the first one.
Right.
that gladiator sequence where we see Fade Rotha for the first time is just extraordinary.
It was a funny conversation because we hadn't met Fade before, and also we hadn't seen Getty Prime in the daytime, really. Like we'd seen other planets in the daytime. We'd seen obviously Arrakis in the daytime, but we hadn't really seen Getty Prime in the daytime. And the danger really was that Getty Prime in the daytime was going to look like Arrakis. I mean, that's the real reality, is because you light two scenes with sunlight, and you're in a stadium that sure is a bit grayer, but it's still got sand, and sure the sand might be white, but not but it's ultimately like there are similarities there. And so Denis was like, well, why don't we do this in black and white? And we're like, great, let's be bold. Let's be bold. Let's do it in black and white. But then I remembered some techniques that I've been using for a few years, because I get a little bit geeky into the sciences. I try not to be too geeky on set. I try and be the artiste, and I try and be a little bit like, but there is definitely some science manuals that I kind of read about. I also studied photography and the physics of photography and light and all that. And so I understand a little bit about the way, visible light works and non-visible light works, and, gamma rays and X-rays and infrared. And so I realized that these cameras actually record infrared, and it's a problem because these camera manufacturers, it bleeds into the colors. So camera manufacturers solve it by putting a infrared filter. But I realized that if you take that filter off and then put a visible light cut filter in, then you end up seeing the only thing you see is infrared. And the only time that we ever experience infrared is when we're looking at our security cameras at night. If when you're looking at your doorbell camera, when your porch light's not on, and you've got somebody come to your door, and you see that kind of really odd looking, ghoulish kind of face. I mean, I got to say, like, none of us look, very good in that sort of light, because we all look a little bit ghoulish. And I said to Denis, well, listen, if we're thinking about black and white, why don't we consider this technique? And I did a little test and showed him, and he was like, that's it. Let's just do that. So we decided to do that. We shot outside in the daytime in Hungary in the middle of summer. So I think Austin's talked about that a little bit because it was hot. But yeah, we shot that, and we shot that with the infrared camera.
Help me understand that. So was that you're saying that the Alexa that you shot with actually captures infrared that you normally throw out? So was it actually a different camera, or were you just using the Alexa without the filters?
No, we were using the Alexa without the filter that they use to solve the problem of infrared bleed. So we took that out. So now the camera is going to see everything from blue, not ultraviolet. Doesn't see ultraviolet. Sees blue right through to infrared, but which doesn't look great. I mean, maybe it looks great for something else. We'll be talking again in 5 years, and I will have shot something like that. So, and you'll bring up a clip of me saying it doesn't look very good, and I'll be like, oh, that's a mistake. But then you cut the visible light so that all the colors that you see on this screen and you see around you, the blue and the green and the red, disappears. So the camera doesn't see anything that we see with our eyes. It only sees infrared light.
Well, and to your point, you probably found the only human being on the planet that would still look good even when in infrared.
I mean, Austin Butler's we're pretty blessed to have the handsome Austin Butler to look kind of incredible under that light.
So you get the script, you read Paul writes and figuring out how to capture Paul writing the sandworm.
I mean, I was thinking about trying to say something funny, like, well, the last time I wrote a sandworm, this is how it felt, which is obviously ridiculous because no one, we haven't all written a sandworm in years, right? Since we were young. But exactly, you read that in the script and you go, Paul rides a sandworm. And the first time you read it, I read it and I just glossed over it because I was enthralled in the story. And then I went back and I went, holy heck, how do we shoot him riding a sandworm? Because I have no point of reference for that. Like, I can't imagine it. I can't, like, there's nothing that I can look at. I can't look at paintings. I can't look at old videos shot. I just can't. Nothing. So I set about, like, we tried to be really honest with our lensing. You know, we tried to have a basis in honesty every time we put a lens on that character. And I think some going into the ocean, being drowned, like going through waves, hitting a wave and going into the wave, and skiing down off piste with an avalanche coming at you, and like tons of GoPro footage, and tons of that stuff. Water skiing.
I love that. I mean, because the whole thing with like you see the vents when he's like pulling with the sticks, the riding sticks.
Yeah.
It was like, oh man, it feels like it isn't just like, oh, here's something happening in front of a green screen. It like feels tactile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was listening to a friend of the show we've had on, Danny Bessner, had Daniel Imaway, the guy that wrote How to Hide an Empire, on his podcast last week, talking about the series of articles he did about Frank Herbert and like his life. And he kind of went in depth and realized that like Frank Herbert had been adopted by like this indigenous tribe in the Northwest. And like, so he spent like a lot of his early life living like with his close friend, and then he made other friends in this tribe. So he was spending all this time with them, and he was trying to like, even though he hated like the federal government, he was trying to get grants to like study this tribe while he was like writing, the books of Dune. And a lot of that was about they were still whaling, like they were still would go out and harpoon the whale.
Sure. Yeah.
So like there's the thought of that, and then looking at like sandworms, like not only the fact that sandworms get you have to harpoon it and then ride it, but also the fact that inside of whales is whale oil, right? Like
which is
the
a
oil.
resource. Yeah.
So that was a pretty like mind blowing thing that like, oh shit, so like these are whales, like so then for him
desert whales.
Yeah, for the
desert whales.
yeah, but for the cinematographer to go into looking at like surf, like what I mean.
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, and it makes sense because if you think about that environment, right, that as it's built within the framework of the film, like it absolutely makes sense. That's kind of what's happening. Also, by the way, like it's this dude's category to lose for the Oscars next year for best cinematography, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like Jesus H Christ.
Yeah. That whole thing with the I was spending my entire time like watching the movie, going like, how did they get this? Like the black and whites the way they did
The infrared thing,
I wouldn't have thought of that. And the thing is, it's like it reminded me a bit of have you seen Zhang Yimou's film The Shadows?
No.
It's okay if well, Zhang Yimou is a phenomenal director from China, and this movie basically it's he filmed it in color, but everything is black and white. And but I'm like, this goes beyond what he did in that movie.
Yeah, it's not even just desaturating it. This is like
no,
because there is kind of an otherworldly element to it, right?
And that's what
crazy.
made it so incredible. Was it was just like okay, there's something else they're doing, and I can't figure it out. And it's like, oh, they're actually doing something wholly original that I've never seen before. This is
is crazy, and like stuff with like the fireworks, and it's like those blobs, and it's like, what?
Oh my
this
god,
is crazy. Okay. So nuts.
I was like, dang, the acid's kicked in. This is great.
And they have those crazy hats that make them look like beasties of some variety too. Like it's the whole thing.
Oh, the guards.
The guards, yeah, like the whole thing. It's so rad looking.
Well, on the like Harkonnen's planet, right? Like in the first movie, we mostly just see the inside.
Yeah, you just see the lair of Baron
Yeah.
Harkonnen, right? Yeah.
And he like puts himself in fucking oil pretty much, and is just like taking like a.
He's doing a Colonel Kurtz.
Yeah,
is what he's doing.
Yes.
Yeah,
and he spent so much time in there, and then like I also like that they took their time introducing like Fade Rutha, because like you have like you have the Sting version
with his metal underwear. Yes.
Yeah,
I'll remember.
they don't take their time introducing like the hardcore.
No, you're just like, oh, and by the way, here's Fade Rutha, and he's like, it's like how much is left in this film? They're introducing a new character. Like what's, and then then there's the I will kill you, and like okay, and then he
doesn't. It's a big enough con piece.
And then he doesn't.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, and then
so I appreciated that you got like a whole bunch of like Dave Bautista before you even get like the much more cunning and like slicker fucking.
Also, the arc of Dave Bautista too. Like
and I love that it looks like there's a linkage between the Baron and Fade, that like he looks like he could be related to both of those dudes.
Yeah.
As a guy, which is like so impressive considering that none of those people look like each other, but they they totally look like they could in the movie, and it's pretty impressive.
Although the
it's super believable.
The Lynch Dune certainly did a good job with that too, making everybody with the same red hair.
Yeah, well, that's an easy shorthand, but I think that Austin Butler is great in this, and it should be noted because, again, it's like you're saying, Forrest. It's like you get more time with the character, so it isn't just like, oh, here's this guy, he's a badass, he's Paul's rival, which is easy to get across in a book. You can do it in like a couple, like a chapter or a paragraph, but when it's just like, oh, this dude is fighting Paul now, okay. But this time you get a build up that like, you're like, oh no, this is a for serious dude. Like this guy is like, first of all, sadistic, and then also just like there's things about him like him and the was it Leia Seydoux? I forget how you say her name, but her Benny
Leia
Gesserit
Seydoux.
character. Yeah, I got it right. Okay, like their whole thing. It's cool. It's weird. It's kind of uncomfortable, but it's kind of like, oh no, this is doing a lot of things at once.
So she refers to him as being sexually vulnerable, as if every single human being is not sexually vulnerable to Leia Seydoux.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly. Word.
Like that's not just him. That's
No,
literally anybody.
Yeah.
And of course, if she comes back into his bedroom after that, he'd be like, "Did you bring the box again?"
Right. Yeah.
Because
the reaction to the
foreplay I had in that box.
He like relishes pain. They're like he like
Yeah.
likes pain. He needs pain. So he's probably just sitting there, just like mad turned on with his hand in the box, and he's like, "What do
Well,
you?"
and getting another aspect of the box, the Fear is the Mind Killer box, and seeing it like how it works for someone else is something that we don't see in the Lynch de Laurentiis Dune. Like, in fact, it barely.
We're very curious about it.
No, he didn't care about. But here it's like, no, that's used to great narrative function, because when you wanted to like, whoa, this dude's like American Psycho, but like an alien, like crazy, you know, like. And but also you see where he's got like a weird warped charisma too, that you could see where he would be, people would follow him as a leader. That like, oh no, this is legitimately like a rival, not just a dude in metal underwear challenging you to a knife fight.
Another thing I appreciated about like the Harkonnen planet is just that they showed you in like, I mean, maybe it's not subtle ways, but like they showed you in kind of subtle ways, or at least backgrounded ways, like the way that life is valued within their society.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like human beings that they've presumably known for a long time, right? His head's fucking slammed into the thing, and until it like fucking breaks by Dave Bautista in the first thing. But then you also get, you know, fucking Fade Ruther testing out the knife on like the courtier.
Right.
And,
On
like,
someone's throat, yeah.
Yeah, and nobody really like flint. Like, in fact, like the weird women in the background that are like his courtier women are like turned on by the fact that somebody is like they have their tongues
They're
out.
also hungry.
Yeah,
right. It kind of reminded me of Bram Stoker's Dracula, you know, where the vampire women that there too is like kind of like similar vibes to that, but in a good way.
Yeah.
You know, not
But Keanu Reeves was in the next room.
Exactly.
I do wish we got more.
Whoa, you're Dracula.
Wow, there's so much blood spurting from that neck. I do wish we got more. Like, my complaints are about.
I do like that movie, by the way.
I wish we got more time
You
getting
can buy
to
that
know.
over, by the way.
I wish we got
There's
more time
only-
to know Florence Pugh's character, and I wish
Oh,
we got
sure.
more time
Yes.
with Austin Butler. And I
Yeah,
wish,
yeah.
like, I feel like we got so much time with Timothée Chalamet and his crazy fucking mom that like it kind of was to the detriment of those other two storylines.
I think that so I would. So Rebecca Ferguson is the star player in the first one for me. Like,
She's so good
Yeah.
in this movie. It's insane.
yeah, and I think you got to get, just for the lore stuff and like while this stuff is happening.
Yeah,
is like you need to have a lot of time there as well. There is a lot of time with
I'm not
Timothée.
saying less. To be clear, I'm not saying less time with them. I'm saying more
time with
Yeah.
Austin. Well, but I think that like
So your complaint is that the movie was too short.
it's too short.
I mean, it's crazy to fucking say that.
Yeah,
but
3
like,
hours just isn't enough
Yes.
for this movie.
It's just
yes,
not
it is.
enough.
I don't know. I just wanted to get to know. I mean, especially Florence.
Well, it leaves you wanting more, right?
Yeah.
Because again, like Austin Butler is so good. Like you guys now know what I mean when I said the private chat. I was like, look, he's straight up terrifying in this. Like he's really good. Like
Yeah.
like
He's still doing a teeny tiny bit of the Elvis bit, I feel like.
a
Like,
little
I thought
bit.
he paid somebody to like exercise it out of him, but like
Yeah.
it's clearly still in there a little bit.
All right, Paul. You and me, karate fight right now.
Right, exactly. right.
I've been training with Bruce Lee, baby.
But I think that
the boxer just goes, thank you very much.
But you get that charisma with the
Yes.
Fade Rotha character that, like, if the charismatic elements of it came off Elvis, however it got there, I'm here for it, because again, it's a well-rounded character that isn't just.
He tells his uncle, "We won't go on together with suspicious minds."
It's not a one-note villain though, right?
Yeah.
And that's what makes it way more interesting, because like. Especially in other iterations, it's like the Harkonnens are almost like cartoon villains or something along those lines. We love doing evil, don't we, boys? Yes, we do.
I like the fact that the Baron's name is Vladimir. And it's like this is kind of how we see Russia as like a country. You know what I mean? Like it's like that's the crazy country where everyone fights in the gladiator fight
with their weird hats. They have weird hats too.
I really loved the detail of just not drugging one of the
As a treat, because he's a dude that craves danger and battle and blood and like that's like.
But then like
present.
he's not expecting that, and he's like, "Oh, you trying to kill me?
Yeah,
you trying to kill me?
You trying to kill me there, son?"
but like, but no, I appreciate that. And then the uncle's like, "No," and also you can have Arrakis if you're good, and then it's like. Because there's this thing in like authoritarian societies, I feel like, right, where like well, I have two things to say. Number one, there's this thing in authoritarian societies where like somebody's like the tough, strong kid or whatever, and then they kind of fuck something up, and you bring in just like another kid and just kind of replace them out from under them. You know what I mean? Like that felt very like real world, I guess. But the other thing is, I really like the uncle's like, well, you were just a playboy, but now you're a serious contender for this thing. And it's like. He was a playboy. This like statistic.
To who?
Exactly. Is he like on the cover of like the Harkonnen version, like People magazine? They're like, he's out with another. Oh, that girl's dead now. He's out with another girl,
and she's dead too.
So would that make Dave Bautista the Jeb to Fade's George W. Bush?
Right, exactly. Well, but I think that it does a good
Arrakis.
It does a good job of building him up in a way that it like there are stakes when they actually fight, right? That it's like, oh no, I understand. And also it's not as much of a just like, one stab and there you go. Like Timothée kind of gets got too. He gets got and like it's
everyone thinks he's done for.
Yeah, and then he and that's better. And it works better also because Shani, again, is skeptic. She's a skeptic of all of this stuff. And that makes her a way more interesting character than even she was in the books. Because especially when it's, it's like, just so you know, I always love you. And then it's like, oh, yeah, by the way, I'm going to marry your daughter, Emperor. Like, that's how this is going to go down. And she's like, what? What's happening now? Like, it's heartbreaking.
It makes her more interesting, but then it also does the thing of like, guiding the audience of like, hey, this is not endorsement just because we're showing you this, but without like flat out like turning to the camera and being like, and that's bad, like she is that kind of character to do that.
Here's why white saviors are not good.
Yeah. He comes out and he's just like, hello, bonjour, I am Denis, and I need to tell you that dictatorships are bad, and we are showing you why we should not have employers.
Yeah. Like an Alfred Hitchcock
kind
style
of like
cameo.
Porky. Like in my brain, it's like Porky Pig. Like at the end of like the Looney Tunes thing, he just like sticks his head out.
Right.
And that's Dune, folks.
Yeah, we both did it.
Did you say that's Dune, folks? That's
No, we both said it's bad, folks. That's
okay.
I said bad.
Actually, that's bad. All right.
Yeah, we did the same exact.
Yeah.
But,
there you go.
He's
Synergy.
He comes out and he's like, he sees just like in Quebec when we had the church running everything, and he gives you just like a long story about Quebec. Yeah. You're like, Jesus Christ, like all good, man. I don't know.
It sounds like a bummer, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Say about Islam, I
just want to see some space worms, dude. I'm trying to learn.
But I am not to like be the clip guy, but that's what I am. I found
that's your job.
He's talking about Chani and his.
Cool. I'm actually interested in this. So it's a good change. It's a change and it's a good change.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like he really likes Frank. I mean, obviously he really likes Frank Herbert's Dune, but like for him to actually like try to understand what the actual point of it is and make changes based on that rather than like what's easier to adapt or like like changes that way or like what's easier to like shoehorn audiences in. It's clear that he really likes Dune at that point. He's like, I'm trying to be truer to his vision than he was.
Difference, I would say, is the character of Shani. Shani in the book, the second part, kind of disappear into the Paul shadows. She's a believer. And the character becomes less interesting. And I thought that there was a very strong opportunity there to create a character that will give us a new perspective on Paul, and in order to get closer to Frank Herbert's initial desires.
I mean, I also love the way you bring like female character to the forefront, even though it's could be seen as a mostly male environment, and the women are in the background and they come forward. They're the strongest character, but they cannot show their power in the same way. And it's also something that you make in a very modern way and a very contemporary way.
Yeah, the book is set in a feudal political system, patriarchal in some, but the real power is held by the Bene Gesserit sisters. And when Eric Roth tackled at first the adaptation of the first movie, he asked me, what would be the key to open the book? How can I crack that? Can you have at least one word? And I said women. The idea of using to make an adaptation that will be focused on the Bene Gesserit sisters. Well, for those who know the book, the book is very dense. There's a lot of faction, a lot of different school of thought in the book. There's like it gets quickly complicated, and I really made this adaptation focusing on that angle, which I thought was very the most relevant and inspiring. And it meant also that, again, yes, it was putting more a spotlight on the sisterhood and the power of women. That is kind of fascinating for me.
Well, we have amazing costumes, So, I thought the way they're like the design and the dress is quite extraordinary.
Yeah, Jacqueline did fantastic work. I remember when I was doing storyboards, I asked my storyboard artist for the Reverend Mother. It was just a Sharpie, a black Sharpie line. That was a Reverend Mother every time in the storyboards, and that was by reference for Jacqueline.
Well, luckily you had a good help for that. I also wanted to ask a little bit about when you work on a film, what are the first thing that comes to your process? Because you write, you write also, you adapt, but do you think more about sounds and the design of the sound, or more about the script, or more about the visual aspect? How do you construct your universe when you first have an idea about a film? That's a tough one. We're going to be here for 6 hours.
No. But it's first of all, I absolutely I came to movies through the words. I love writing. I don't consider myself necessarily a good screenwriter, but I love writing. I love, and it's like, I love also I developed through the years more the idea of collaborating to work with other screenwriters, and I love sharing creativity, and so let's say that to adapt these movies, the screenwriting process is quite long because the books are pretty dense, and but once the screenplay is done, I will say what is maybe more specific to my approach is the storyboards, where I will draw alone with my storyboard artist the whole movie, where that helped me tremendously to dig into to sculpt the movie, to find the cinematic vocabulary that to apply that vocabulary to the old structure, and to create props, costumes, vehicles. Not thinking that I will necessarily come with the final idea, but at least that I will find ideas to feed my crew later. And there's a lot of things that are the ideas that are coming out of this, and more importantly, idea of mise en scène, where I will very often find the proper way to shoot, and going through the words to the image. There's always a certain amount of serious transformation that goes into that process, where I will go from the storyboards and rewrite the screenplay after from the storyboards. That's because I feel
the Sharpie is not good enough.
exactly. But it really helped me and for me to that's where I feel the movie is born. And as I say to my crew, the storyboard supersedes the screenplay, and then nature supersedes the storyboard, meaning that when we go on set, if something happened with the actors or with the light or with a natural event that feels absolutely inspiring, I will just throw the storyboards above my shoulder and improvise.
And very interesting.
That's a bit how
I thought Andy would find the storyboard part fascinating.
Yeah, no, it reminded me a lot how Alan Moore writes comics. He actually like blocks them out and then takes these drawings and then converts it all into text. So that's how you get something as immaculate as say like the reflection issue of Watchmen.
Oh yeah, which is like some groundbreaking stuff.
Yeah, and it all comes from the fact that he actually Alan Moore drew it first, and then Dave Gibbons without seeing the Alan Moore stuff.
Before it's perfected by Zack Snyder, of course.
Yes.
Thank you. It's a joke, folks. Thank you. Becky, I think you had a point you wanted to make too.
Yeah, just because it's that clip starts off like talking about changes with like Chani specifically, but that's not the only change that we see in a character. Paul's sister, the way that is done, I think is so much more effective in this film. And I know that it's also easy to make fun of because blonde. But I think it's so much more effective, like to watch her like talking to and having these conversations, with like this fetus that she's carrying, rather than like this incredibly precocious like toddler character that has this like very advanced vocabulary, like she's like Pearl from
Alicia Witt. It was Alicia Witt in the I was gonna say the McLaughlin Dune, which is technically correct, but the De Laurentiis Lynch Dune.
You're not wrong.
Who was a child genius, to be clear, and so therefore that.
You can't replicate that.
Yeah, and it's and she's actually awesome. Don't get me wrong. Like I like Alicia.
Come on the show.
Would love that. For a number of reasons, but the changes are with Anna Taylor-Joy as being like the visualized adult version of the sister.
Mm-hmm.
That works better narratively. I agree with you. Like that. Like it's kind of weird just seeing like a child speak like an adult in general.
Yeah.
And even when there's a narrative reason for it, there's something that like kind of takes me out of it. I'm like, why is like it's creepy, which it's supposed to be creepy, so good, but like it works so much better in a non-distracting manner to have, even though she's like barely in the film, right? But like,
mostly as a fetus,
right? Exactly.
Yes,
it works.
It's the voice.
Yeah. I also like that the beginning of it, like one of the first things you hear is fucking Paul be like, "Yeah, you probably should have aborted that fetus." And then it's like the fetus is talking to her the whole movie.
Yeah, and it's well, it's interesting because like something I caught on the rewatch for the part one, it was sort of like I don't know Rebecca Ferguson's actual age versus Timothée Chalamet's actual age, but it doesn't seem like that they're that far apart necessarily. Like, so the fact that their mother and son is sort of like kind of interesting. There's one scene where like Paul's changing and she's like looking at him and it was sort of like, oh, that could go like if you didn't have context, that could like go like a different way. Like you might think something else is going on here.
I guess she's 40 and he's
20 something, maybe
20 something. Yeah.
All right, he's 28 and she's 40.
Yeah, exactly. So which, okay, I guess she could had him young.
I mean, that's
I don't know what they're up to.
The worst thing that Hollywood's ever done with casting, but yeah.
Well, she's playing a slightly older, and he's playing slightly younger.
And like I think it's good to go a little younger with the mom too, because like she's a Bene Gesserit. She could have immaculate skincare as part of her religion, because they do live longer, probably because of the spice.
I really like in like the the world of Dune, no matter which version it is, but also like especially in this one, the mix of like there's like a mix of like real kind of mystical, magical, occultist kind of stuff. Like the Bene Gesserit really do have these powers.
Yes.
And you really do like drink the fucking like water of life, and it really does give you visions. And like that's something that in this universe, just by default you'd be like, oh, that's definitely the Messiah, because he can predict the future, he can see the future or whatever, and has all these visions. And I like that.
And the voice.
Well, I like that that's mixed in, so that like it's not just like, oh, is he the Messiah, and it's like, oh, does he have powers? It's like he's probably one of the strongest characters in this universe, but like that doesn't mean that people should automatically assign him the role of Messiah, right? Like,
well, but not just that, but like it doesn't actually matter if he is the Messiah or not. Like he very clearly is, but like who created that story, like in this thing for him to follow, right? Like it's the Bene Gesserit.
Yeah.
Right. Who again are portrayed very well in the fact that they're portrayed very poorly here, that like you get the machinations like big time. Like, oh, this is like where the Game of Thrones analogies come in, right? Where it's like, no, they're scheming.
It's like there's less of a like, is he or isn't he? And it's like, no, he is, but like it's more about like, does that actually even mean anything?
Yeah, but at the same time, like you can see a version of it where he gets killed and Faye and Rutha comes down, and they're like, well, that's clearly the Messiah, right? Like they can change these narratives, I guess, to fit there.
Yep.
Using the religion to extract the resource, because remember this holy thing that on Arrakis, that this thing that is like for all, like basically the foundation of all their dogmatic belief systems is literally fuel for the rest of the universe. Literally fuel. Like, and in a way that like that's such a heavy-handed hit you with a sledgehammer analogy in some ways, but it's so perfect because it's I hate to say it, but it's relatively timeless. Yeah. Oh, we need that to make the starships go. So
I mean it's
oil,
just like,
dude. It's about oil.
Yeah.
Killers of the Flower Dune.
Like the oil.
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. Killers of the Flower Dune.
You just gotta marry one of the women, and you gotta take their head rights.
Well done. Keep it topical. Becky, what were you gonna say?
I don't remember anymore.
Sorry. It's kind of how the show works.
It's over there somewhere.
Yeah. Well, but yeah, like the idea that like, so one of the reasons why it's a timeless book and been very difficult to adapt is a lot of these story aspects are things that we see in culture again and again and again. Indigenous civilizations being exploited for their resources, things along those lines. But it's also tied into the hardest of the hard sci-fi. Like, this is what Roman is talking about in Party Down. When he says, well, I'm into hard sci-fi. It's like that, which I love that so much. It doesn't get much more hard sci-fi than Dune. Like, dude, like, what? I forget which one it is, but it's like where there's like the worm with like the human face, and it's like, okay, this is pretty hard sci-fi, man.
Yeah.
Like you're not like gonna sneak. No one's gonna get this by accident and know what the hell's going on. I say that as a fan.
The one book of Dune that I've read so far, and I intend to read like the books, but
they're good.
When I was younger, I was in that fucking like this residential placement thing, and all you could do is really read for like a couple of years. So I read. They didn't. The only Dune that they had was the Sandworms of Dune, like the one that his son wrote, where it's like so like I was thrown into. I was trying to read whatever was on there because you had like an iPad and you couldn't watch TV, or you could only really read. So I was reading like the book about the fucking Sandworm. I was like, I don't get what's going on in this world at all.
Yeah, that's like throwing you in the deep end.
It's kind of like reading the Silmarillion without like ever having like seen or read like Lord of the Rings or like The Hobbit. You're like, I mean, I guess this makes sense, but like, why is anyone telling me this?
Yeah, like why would I care about literally any of this? It seems like and that's Well, it's funny because
That's so interesting.
we talked about, we did Wizard of Oz first show of the year, and first of all, there's so many Oz books, and they still keep going back to the one, which is ridiculous. But like also, yeah, like his son, like
because it's the best one.
Well,
and because they all got traumatized by the movie Return to Oz, all of them, every single one of them.
Which is traumatizing for sure.
Because they had never heard of electroshock therapy until they watched it because they were like 10. All of them, all the filmmakers.
But there's a lot of them. Like that's another one where there's a built world, right? There's a built world.
Yes.
And then at some point also like then it becomes like, the estate. And then like there's the stuff that's unfinished and so on and so on. And like that that's what you can do when you have a built world like this. But there's so much of it, and it's like what happened with Star Wars, where all the expanded universe stuff, you start off with these Timothy Zahn books. They're very good. That's where we got the character of Thrawn from. They could have just made 3 of those movies and it would have been like the best Star Wars ever. They didn't. Filoni's been really good about taking certain pieces from that and bringing them into modern Star Wars in unique and cool ways. But then after the Zahn books, there was like more books and more books and more books where there was kind of nobody directing the whole enterprise. And so some of it got really goof-ass and to the point that they basically like, yeah, none of that happened. That's all like, just forget any of that happened because like it's not even worth salvaging at this point. So the reason I'm invoking that is because what you have to concern yourself with a franchise like this, again, it melds the the pseudo mystical and the scientific fantastic, if you want to use a CARP term. You end up in a situation where it may not all even make sense to like the most diehard Roman from Party Down hard sci-fi fans, and so that's the danger. So how do you make that into a tentpole franchise movie blockbuster? Because again, without it being like that TV edition of Dune that's just like giving you an exposition of like, well, the navigators do this. Whatever. Oh my God, Jesus Christ!
Well,
I know about this.
It's touching on every single fraught thematic point that they can really bring in, right? Like we have like a lot of it is about ecology, and we have like literal climate change deniers, and like half of them are, what I mean? Like, so you have to make it abstract on that level, but it's also has to be abstract on the religious level. You got people that are going to be watching it in like Alabama or something that have joined a fucking evangelical church that like making it into a franchise that's like universalist. And that's without even like looking at like kind of like the colonialist parts of it and people projecting their own version of like like conflicts in the Middle East or whatever onto it.
Yeah.
Right.
Or,
The Harkonnens did nothing wrong, y'all.
Baron Harkonnen was right. T-shirt. Yeah.
It just feels like every single thematic point, like resource extraction. You know what I mean? Like all of these different things that kind of divide people by a lot, and you have to like I feel like once this is all payoff and people are like, all right, I'm into it because it's like the the upward swing of the Messiah story. But like once they have to make a movie that's like Paul kind of breaking
Dune
bad.
Messiah, the next one perhaps. Yeah, where it's like it's not all peaches and roses, folks.
Yeah, like that's going to be even harder to create into like a universalist thing, I think.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you could do it in one movie either. Like it is a dense book, but it really is a great epilogue to this because the first Dune book it just ends. So,
right. Yeah.
So it's the ending is really funny because I think that there's a lot of people that are like, wait, that's it?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, what happens in the rest of the book? And I'm like, nope, that's it.
That's how the book ends. Yeah. It kind of pulls an Empire Strikes Back,
Yeah.
No, the thing that I was gonna say is that like there's these tiny subtle things that make it able to like be understood because there's so much like the actual world. And like even if we just think about like the divide between like the North and the South, like the North-South part is actually not the important part. The part that's important is that one half or one section of the planet is much more rural, has much fewer resources, does not have cities, has less access to education. And that's where you see these people who they are hanging on to hope. And they are just following these beliefs because like one, people in more rural areas like tend to lean more into like traditionalism and like, well, this is the way that we've always done it. But then also like when you have less and you see like a different section of the world that has more, if the one thing that you can cling to is that you have this like this faith, this belief, this hope, like that's part of what fuels and like breeds like fundamentalism. And like even like if you look at like, you know, the Harkonnens, like they completely just like did not even look at an entire section of the planet because they're like, oh, there's nothing there, right? And that just like exacerbates that type of like feeling. And it does not tell you any of those things. It shows it to you. And that is such a rare thing in films that are trying to talk about like modern or complex issues. And the thing that I think I'm so grateful for this being like a huge blockbuster is that people are going to watch this. And I guarantee you that at least 65% of people who watch this are not going to think that deeply about those little sections, but that's going to now become like ingrained and implanted in their brain. And when they see it happening in the real world or on the news or in a different film, they're going to be like, wait, I've thought this thought before, you know? I just, Dune.
Yeah, it's well,
Dune
no, Dune Part 2. By the way, I kind of love it's just Dune Part 2. They didn't go for anything clever like Rise of Atreides or some.
Or they didn't call the first one like Fall of the House of Atreides.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
which you know would be actually a great name for it. But you know,
it also would be a spoiler, but that's fine.
I would love to see like Denis like do like Dune Messiah. My fear of that is that like I'm ready to be like done with like we need to do 5,000 films of every like,
being tied to a franchise for forever.
Yeah, I'm like, no, we're done. Get out of here. But I also do kind of want to see it, but then I don't know. The thing
there's like books that it can organically flow from, right? Like I feel like what we get into trouble as like a culture is when number one they start extending books out and out and out, or number two when they start kind of just
Game of Thrones,
like writing for the
The second they went off book, that show went off the rails.
Yeah, because I cannot imagine them doing like whatever the fourth Dune book's called, where it's like the main character of the book is a giant half human, half worm character who cloned Duncan, Idaho.
The books get significantly more convoluted and less quality as they go on.
I will say the one thing I love about that fourth book is it gave me like the qualifications for whoever gets cast for Duncan, Idaho. It has to be a guy who can climb a wall and make a woman come. And you know, when they cast Jason Momoa, I'm like, that's the guy.
That guy can do those things.
Yes. You can do those things. Well, and that's kind of what I was saying too about like the problem with extended universe Star Wars is that it got too convoluted. That like they just had to literally ditch it. It was like no, there's no saving this. Like it started off great.
This was the same guy. Like he pulled a big old George Lucas, like where he just kind of like lost touch with like what it is that people liked about the thing that like he made, and leaned too far into like
drugs.
Hard
the
sci-fi.
not that parts.
Yeah, and hard drugs.
To be fair, to defend, I guess, Frank Herbert.
Harder sci-fi and harder drugs. Yeah.
He was trying to write like a lot of other stuff, and his publishers kept being like, "Dude, this is the first thing you've ever
write more Dune."
Yeah. Why don't you write more of these? Why don't you write more books about the sandworms?
Like I guess halfway between like two of the books. He wrote like a novel about like an indigenous farmer or something, and a white guy that goes into it. Like he wrote like these books about like these indigenous tribes that were supposed to be like more realistic, and the publishers were like, "What the fuck is this? We want Dune. Get back ready."
That might have been an actual quote from the room too.
Yeah. Here's some acid. Here's a typewriter. Go to it.
Yeah, go to it. Get it done.
But he was writing those like long after he had been like, oh man. But Brian I almost said Brian Henson. Brian Herbert is still alive, and he's gonna be pushing for like Denis to make like the Sandworms of Dune or something like his version of it, and it's like. You gotta stop at the Frank Herbert.
Don't do it. Don't do it, man.
Honestly, the first two books are the only ones you need to adapt because I really do think that the Dune Messiah is a great epilogue to this because the first book does end just like this movie, and I think that one actually has a much. I love the ending of it because I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't read it, but I think the ending is perfect.
Too late with this show, but
yeah.
I think I don't know. My biggest fear with that is like I don't know that it can be like one single film.
Yeah, I don't think it would work.
And I don't know that like I want to do the like
2 parts
because this is what it's like Dune. Part 2, but then this would be Dune Messiah Part 1. Dune Messiah Part 2.
Right.
Dune 2 Messiah Part 1. What?
Right. It's all,
I mean,
just getting the numbering is going to be confusing for people,
You know he's going to
It
do it.
works better in
like,
French, though. So, it's...
there you go. There you go.
He's going to do it, though, just because people are like, how is he going to do this one? And Denis is going to be like, I must show them how I must do this one.
I wonder.
Much like Quebec, I will secede from the studio.
we were... I was actually just talking about that last night. It was my last time we played Quebec. Interesting place. Let's put it that way. The influence of it, right? So for me, it's almost like I think that's from a while ago, but that was very good.
Thank you.
So on the show, as everybody knows, we were very early adopters of Everything Everywhere All at Once, way pre-Oscars hype, way pre-Oscars winning. We were early advocate. And we mentioned that, with it winning, that that's going to open the door for weirder stuff to be to be made and to be potentially mainstreamed. Which, look at Poor Things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Poor Things is weird as hell. Now, granted, Yorgos already had a record of success with things like The Lobster and The Favorite. So, but I think it works well in the fact that you get doors open for weirder stuff like Dream Scenario and stuff like that, and in that same way, I hope that people will take some lessons from the Denis Dune, 2 especially, to, again, do the opposite of those Star Wars prequels and like Becky was saying, show not tell. Don't give me a walk and talk with a bunch of exposition like Aaron Sorkin.
I'm not dumb.
Yeah.
Let me figure it out on my own.
People will, if it's interesting enough, people will want to kind of pull at the thread.
Don't
right?
want to think about it and pull it apart. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I hope that becomes it's probably going to be the dumbest possible thing. It might be that everyone rips off what the Harkonnen planet looks like. It might be something like that.
Yeah.
That, that's the influence. That'd be very depressing. If so.
We need to film an ultraviolet now.
Yeah, everybody's going to start doing that one thing, and that's the lesson they learn because people tend to learn all the stupidest, dumbest stuff. But I hope that is not the case, and I hope that again, the big movie experience, seeing it at Alamo Drafthouse, Becky Rice, sponsored by Alamo Drafthouse, and seeing it in a group of people and having the experience of seeing again, even though you got a sense of scope and scale with the worms in the first one, the stuff in here, it's it feels like you're about to fall in, to the worm's mouth sometimes, and I love that stuff, and I think that's again, you have to harken back to the OG Jurassic Park.
Harkonnen back.
Oh yeah, how did I miss being Harkonnen Neutron? Jesus, what's my problem? I'll get right on that. By the way,
you can do it now.
I know. Yeah, if I wasn't talking, the idea of getting scope and scale for something like Jurassic Park, right? Where it's when that came out, it was oh my god. Goddamn dinosaurs running around, crazy! And then they managed. They made 17 sequels, and they managed to make dinosaurs boring somehow on some of them. But the idea,
the dinosaurs are still cool. Just the rest of the movie is not.
The rest of it, exactly. Well, I mean, the idea being that you can do scope and scale for invented creatures. Because for most people, even if they mess with sci-fi, it's a special type of nerd, myself included, that knows from Dune. Dune is just it's been the white whale for adaptations. There was that a Sci-Fi Channel series, Andy, that they had.
Yes,
for
William Hurt, by the way, which is fantastic casting as Leto Atreides.
Yeah, well, great, but that's all I got. That's all I got to say about it.
Yeah, it's one of the few things I got right. So,
well, it's all right. Well, it's like that Shining remake with the guy from Wings, right? You had Rebecca De Mornay in that, and the character that she plays is the same one that Shelley Duvall plays in the Kubrick movie, is closer to the book and a much more powerful character with more autonomy and agency, and that part of it's great. And they have the hedge maze, and everything else is inferior to the Kubrick movie. Everything else, it's kind of astounding, to the point that's yeah, maybe those changes were for the better. Which again, look at what happened with the Zendaya character in here, right? It's a better change because again, he can be almost an audience proxy that isn't like the that's bad, folks, like level of interaction.
Well, I love
common.
that the Chani character dispenses with kind of what we were talking about with like messiahs and it being bad and why having kind of these messiahs are bad. In one line, it manages to dispense with it by being like, look, if people have a messiah to hope for, they're willing to wait like hundreds and hundreds of years and not fulfill something where it's like taking control of your own civilization, taking control of your own resources. Like they'll just sit there and wait for the messiah, which is happening. It happens all over the fucking world, right? Like. I think there's a lot.
Yeah, you want to control people, give them a messiah, and they'll wait.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like things get bad in fucking America, and every single time they're like, "Oh, don't worry, God will handle this when he comes back."
Trump's coming back. He's going to be president again. He's going to fix everything. Don't worry, folks.
But like, I don't know. Like, there's a very true statement, but like, it manages to dispense with that entire like that's bad thing in like a line. I mean, if you're paying attention to it. Anyway.
Yeah, this is spoken by a character that is in character for them to say. And I should say that because
yes,
that was one of my problems with like some things in Lost, the TV show Lost. That like
there's nothing wrong with Lost. Like not a single thing, not a single season, not a single episode, not a single character. We can just skip to whatever your next.
Just because you're on a Lost podcast doesn't mean you get points on it, Becky.
We can edit this part out of the live broadcast.
That people would sometimes say or do things that advance the plot that didn't make sense for their characters, as I saw it.
Yeah, sometimes Gilligan would find the message that somebody sent, and you'd get a whole new person on the island, right? Like,
Allegedly.
Gilligan turns to the skipper, and he's like, "Are we in purgatory?" And
All right. Listen, everybody. Letterboxd, of course, is a social media site for film lovers to talk with and to each other about the films that they love, maybe the films that they didn't love, the films that they built sandworms to ride around in the theater while they were waiting for their showing. Who knows? And, of course, it's not just the Siskel's and Eberts of the world. Everybody gets to have their say. It's a bottom-up democracy. Everyone gets to chime in, opine, if you will, thirst post, whatever floats your boat. And, of course, all this is best done succinctly for the purposes of this bit, where we collect all of the best of them together, and by we, I mean me, and put them on screen for us to react to.
And by us, he means us that time.
Yeah, that's exactly. See? Inclusive. And I'm totally not doing anything where I show instead of tell, but we are going to show in a second. These are the Letterboxd one-liners for Dune Part 2. Let's go. Even on a desert planet, thousands of years in the future, no child can escape their mother's lofty expectations.
Yeah, this is why when people are like joking around that this is just like Life of Brian, it's like, yeah, except for mom. The mom actually believed in him.
There are some Life of Brian corollaries, though.
Yeah, no, definitely. But like, they literally like almost like have them look at the camera when they do it. They're like, only the Messiah would say, you know what I mean? Like,
sounds like just like something the Messiah would say.
Like only the Messiah would deny his own divinity. I mean, that's the line from Life of Brian, but they say pretty much that.
I think all political leaders should be determined by who can ride the biggest worm. I'm in.
Wow.
I endorse that.
Can't be any worse than what we got. That's what I got to say. Jesus.
It would be very funny to see Biden and Trump try to ride a worm. So, they're both way too fucking old.
No, I would tune in for that. Whatever that is being broadcast on, I would tune in for.
I have the biggest worm. I have the worm. Everyone said they've never seen a worm that big, and that's why when I rode the worm, everyone laughed and they applauded. They said, "Sir, you're riding the biggest worm."
There we go. I'm honestly just really glad that Austin Butler got stuck in character for Elvis instead of being stuck in character for this.
Well, how do we know?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no!
Do we have verification of that?
Yeah. Like he has somebody bring him lunch during an interview, and he like picks up the knife from the table and cuts the interviewer's throat, and he's like, "Well, I'm in character."
That would be Jared Leto in that role. Thank you.
Oh God.
Jared Leto Atreides, like.
Oh, no.
Oh, please.
No.
Yeah, ruin a movie with one casting difference.
I said that to somebody on Facebook. They got mad at me.
God, I'd be
but
mad
what
at
if
you
it
too.
was like some, replace cast with all the Muppets about one person, or just replace everybody with Jared Leto except for those sandworms?
Okay. You can workshop that bit and bring it back for the next movie.
Pass.
Okay.
I think we underestimate how unbelievable it is that Denis Villeneuve made the work of Dune work on the big screen. Fuckable popcorn buckets just feel normal in a universe like this.
The popcorn bucket should have been the box.
Oh my God, I agree.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Or you have the fuckable popcorn bucket, and then when someone does something with it, fucking Javier Bardem appears and goes, "You must conserve your water. Do not
Oh no.
Yes, keep it in. Keep it in.
Need a friend like Stilgar to hype me up all the time. Word.
True. Yeah.
True.
He did a good job being like the believer that isn't necessarily like a fundamentalist, but like
right.
He's like, oh, this is the Messiah. I know for a fact.
Yeah, he's like Flavor Flav.
Well, and
you know, they're just the hype man.
He's very into like the things, but he's also kind of like he knows how people like perceive that. Because whenever somebody's like, "So do you believe in Paul?" He's like, "Well, there are signs."
Yeah.
No, he's 100% in, but he just like can't admit it out loud because he knows that it makes him look crazy.
Yeah, and every single time he's like, as it was written, but he says it like low key.
Yeah, yeah, he does. He's not trying to broadcast it exactly.
I don't know, but like my favorite, I think one of my favorite shots of the movie is when Paul say he's not the Messiah, and then there's like this weird shot where it's fucking where it's Javier Bardem and then a bunch of like the guys that do believe, and they're just like in a circle, and he's like, as it was written, and he like looks around at all of them, and it's like such a funny shot.
Yeah.
They all look so happy about it too.
Yeah. His name is Paul Mohadir Atreides. His job is desert.
I would watch one of the few crossovers I would watch is if they put Ken into the Dune universe.
Oh my God, amazing. Yes.
Oh my God, I'm
Ken,
just deep.
With that pink outfit,
yeah,
just rocking on the sandworm.
Oh man, a pink still suit.
Holy crap.
he comes back to the Barbie world and he's like, okay, it didn't work to do patriarchy, but I am the Messiah.
What courses? I got worms.
There you go. To think Shani wasted her body's moisture on Muad Dick just to be tossed aside. How spicy. That's Kaylee from Haploid there. Yes, we already. I know we already made that joke earlier, but I pull these way ahead of the show. Imagine being a sandworm just going about your day and you hear that thump, and now you just gotta go help out some Paul kid.
Yeah, it's gotta be rough to be because they put the thumpers out to like make the sandworms stay away, and then they also put the thumpers out to make the sandworms like appear.
Yeah,
they have two versions of it. It's like, dude, just let the sandworms be sandworms.
What now? That's Ian Layton there.
Like knock knock knock. They got to come up with a sandworm doorbell.
Like
we'll
a
get our top
ring?
researchers on that. I wonder if Sting liked it. Yeah,
That's a good question.
I don't know.
Do you think Sting has seen Dune?
I don't know. I could see it going both ways. I know Kyle MacLachlan did. I know that because I heard the Randy Randall show where he had Kyle MacLachlan. I asked him that.
He's too busy doing Stig is too busy like by himself with people in a room doing the fucking what do you call it, like
tantric sex?
Yeah.
That joke phoned in from 20 years ago, but it's still accurate.
Yeah. That's the last I heard about what Sting was up to.
No, he's probably still doing it. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not in the room.
Well, it takes so long, right? Like
he's still on that first session. Damn, it sucks when your boyfriend gets really high and thinks he's Jesus.
Yeah,
I like the fact that like he could be Jesus, he could be like Muhammad, he could be like, you know what I mean? Like there's corollaries to all of the different fucking like, you know, Abrahamic religious figures that he's like anybody could kind of take whatever the other religion is and be like,
it slots right in. Yeah, it slots right in.
Well, I mean that's really the strength of science fiction is that you can actually make it. You know, you can say stuff about things without actually saying about it, which makes it more universal and you know transcends generations when it's done right.
Those are Letterboxd one-liners for Dune Part 2. Please follow the show at our Letterboxd HQ account at Movie Night Extra. You can follow your host, Forrest, the Lisan Al-Gaib. That's really hard for me to do in this setup. At Always Flacco. That's his personal account. He's logging all the stuff that we do on this show. You can read his takes on there as well. On the HQ account, we're logging all the stuff we cover in the show with extra content whenever we get around to it. I am, of course, Conan Neutron, Pod Emperor of Dune. all over that letterbox biz, watching the highbrow, the midbrow, the populist fare. Follow me for the Criterion Challenge and Film School Dropouts if you dare, if you take the call to adventure. And J. Andrew Freeman name here, world? Really? Freeman name here? Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, it's a secret, right?
Oh, yeah, Fremen. Well, we regret the error. The streamer has awoken, apparently because they watched too many Doctor Who episodes and then eventually woke up during them. But he's logging all that stuff on Letterboxd, also the weirdest stuff, so you don't have to. Maybe so you can. Not for me to judge. Calling balls and strikes here. It's what he's doing, folks. At right about now, too. Becky Rice, my friend. Becky KR.
Logging Dune.
She's doing it. She's doing it.
Doing it.
Logging Dune Part 2, all the Dunes, and much, much more over on Letterboxd. Great follow, highly recommended. One of my favorite people, NBD.
Thank you.
Before we go to the plugs, I think we got a sponsor. Yeah.
Tonight's podcast is brought to you by Jebiga, a Balkan Rakia spirit plum brandy that brings Serbia to the American shores in an authentic and appreciative way. Care of Billy Gould, bassist for Faith No More, and Rakia Appreciator. Rakia is a traditional spirit enjoyed at weddings, funerals, and life events. However, more and more it's being enjoyed everywhere on a night out with friends or as a casual drink. Get a bottle today in liquor stores and bars across America. Go to yabiga.com to see where it's available near you.
There you go. Jay Underworld, please take us away with the plugs, why don't ya?
All right. If you are
None of that Fremen shit.
Exactly.
You
If you like your
already.
eyes to be blue, then you should try the Spice Melange.
Yes, new from Yabiga.
It's a new product line, yeah.
Yes, it's exciting. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, please do those YouTube things: like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and of course, the big ask we always do is watch the video to the end. That allows other movie fans to find our content, but that also allows you to hear that great Conan Neutron song at the end of our videos. If you're over on Twitch, do the Twitch things, like, comment, what is it? You want to do that stuff too. But you also have, if you happen to have an Amazon Prime account, you can subscribe to us over there for free. It doesn't cost you anything, but it actually really does help out the channel. So please do those things if you can. Find us on social media. We are on various sites, including Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, and of course, Discord. Find us there. It's great. We have a Discord. It's fun.
It is.
Join the Discord. We have lots of Dune memes in there now.
There's so many Dune memes. It's like no Dune discussion. It's turned into just Dune memes. So I'm not mad about it though.
No, because they're funny.
Yeah, they're great.
Yes.
It's if you love Dune memes, now it's a great time to be alive.
Exactly.
And in our Discord, looking at them.
The one thing that's keeping me alive, all the Dune memes.
If you want to support the channel more, you can actually go right to Patreon and do that. Patreon.com/Movie Night Extravaganza. That allows you to directly support the show and get access to things such as our after parties, which we didn't talk at all about after parties for
no
tonight.
way, man. Not for me.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I got home at like 3 a.m. last night.
No more after party spice for me, man. I've gone too far.
If you need more of a fix, though, join and go through our vast archives of after parties, and you will find something that's completely off topic and crazy, or
potentially risque.
Yeah, or a really smart conversation, because we've had those too on the after parties.
It does happen. You can hear all the predictions that were probably wrong for everybody on the show.
yeah, all the Golda jokes.
So many Golda jokes. Oh,
yes,
so
many of them. Now, I know Conan has been off of Protonic Reversal because he was on tour, but he is back on it now.
That's right.
Yeah, is there
correct?
So there's a new one coming out on Thursday, right?
Yeah. I had Blake Bickle from Bronson Armon, Greg Norton from Husker Du is coming up next, and which should be good. He's also Ultra Bomb. That's his current band now, and that's good. We've been going back and forth about it for a while, but. That's coming up next, and Ralph Spite from Victim's Family, who also plays in Joel Biafra in the Guantanamo School of Medicine, with one Joel Biafra of the Day Kennedys. He's coming up next as well, and Kid Congo Powers from Gun Club, and Nick Cave, and freaking every band ever. I mean, he's in the Cramps, if you can believe it. You know, that guy's done a lot.
That's where he got the nickname, apparently.
Yes. So that's what's coming up for Controversial. $1 a month for Patreon advance access. Give me money, thank you. Otherwise, archives are always available for free. Thursdays, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific.
All right. Yeah, and of course, Conan just got back from a tour, so if you missed it, you can actually go to neutronfriends.bandcamp.com and check out all the latest Conan, Neutron, and Secret Friends albums.
And you can also check out these dates that are coming up in May, which I just happen to have this here. Look at that. Madison, Milwaukee, Cincinnati, Louisville, Chicago, Minneapolis for Caterwall, and Brainiac, High Noon Saloon, again in Madison. Some of these with Part Chimp and our Great Noise Quintet. Should be good times, everybody.
That sounds like a great lineup.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I also agree with that.
Yeah. And yeah, that's all I got there.
Dune popcorn bucket jump scare. Boom.
All right. Christina, sadly not make it. But I just want to say, if you want to support her, go over to her Patreon as well. It's patreon.com/cosmopolitics, and support Christina so she can be on more shows.
By the way, the one line in Dune that was way too corny though. He's eating the food, and they're like, "What? That's too spicy for you?" And then he realizes they put fucking spice in the food.
Oh,
it's funny.
I chuckled, yeah.
Because then she's like, he's gonna look good with blue eyes. And
I like that. I like that better than the other one.
True,
yeah. And of course, Becky, brought to us by Alamo Draft House.
I have a lot of sponsors. Anybody who wants to give me free stuff or money is more than welcome to.
There you go.
But yeah, you're part of the Seattle International Film Festival, part of the year-round crew, I understand.
Yeah. So in addition to the festival, SIFF operates 4 theaters in the Seattle area year-round. So there's always stuff going on, even if it's not during, what we refer to as the big festival. We also run a documentary festival. But the exciting thing about the Seattle International Film Festival is that there is a virtual component to it still. So fly out to Seattle or stay home in the comfort of your living room. But definitely passes are available now, and there's some good stuff.
So do you have to buy a pass to do the virtual thing?
No, but weirdly, you do have to buy a Dune popcorn bucket. So it's a strange bylaw.
It's always funny.
Exactly. Sorry.
That's terrifying. I just can't.
Yeah, this is Becky's reaction to that, by the way. Thank you. Podcast listeners love it when I do that stuff.
Yes.
What's happening? What are they laughing about?
The best part of podcasts is the visual gags.
Right, all about the visual humor.
Everybody knows that.
Everybody says it.
Yeah.
Yeah, more and more on iTunes.
Most of the reviews mention it.
So yeah, I was asking about the virtual
gags on this one. So wish I could have seen it, but I hear it's hilarious.
Seemed funny. 1 star.
To answer your question about the virtual component, I should probably know more about it before I start talking about it.
It exists. You know it exists. That's a good step.
Okay.
Yeah. In the past, there has been a virtual only component. And then I know that if you purchase a full pass, there is access to virtual. So you'll have to go online and do some reading to figure out what's happening this year, because I didn't prep.
That's fine. That's fine. But the dates are May 9th through 19th, if I got that right.
Yeah, it's a long festival.
So, yes. Yeah, that's more than a week, right? That's 10 days.
10. The maths.
Yeah, it's illegal to have a film festival longer than 10 days.
Well, technically, ours is longer than 10 days because the virtual component is its own set of dates, which I like because. Oh yeah, it's the week following, which is cool because then if you do pick up and do some of the virtual stuff, you actually have time to like catch up what you had missed out
To actually
on
watch
during the
the
festival.
stuff. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
I love that. That's good. I think all film festivals should do that. I understand why they don't, but
It's tricky.
But to hell with them.
In defense of other film festivals that have gotten a lot of flack for narrowing down and making their virtual components more restrictive, it's a lot more difficult to allow it than you think.
Right. I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you want to go check out all of this stuff, it's at siff.net, SIFF. So there you go. Go check that out and find out those answers I couldn't get on the show.
Sorry.
Not all the answers, apparently. Yeah. We'll find.
I missed that meeting because I was busy watching Dune for like the fourth time.
Exactly. You're doing show prep for this. You just didn't know that's why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Doing it.
Doing it.
Doing it. Yeah.
I know you guys are doing the meeting right now, but I'm doing something else.
I'm doing the movie.
Doing things. Yes. Is that it, Andy? It's got to be it, right?
Yeah, that's it. Right now.
Okay. Please tell me that's it.
So Becky, do you have any final thoughts? Anything we didn't get to, or
Dune rocks.
Yeah.
Dune now more than ever. I don't know.
The Paul Atreides campaign slogan: Dune now more than ever.
Now more than ever.
Yeah.
It's the tagline of the third movie. Actually, it's a little known fact.
I will say when in like the one-liners, I was like, I'm very proud of / embarrassed by my very first review of Dune, and I was like terrified that it was going to be like up there. Where I was like, I would follow this man into like a holy war over a peanut butter sandwich if he asked me to, and like, yes, I missed the point, but like, I don't care.
Yeah, no, I thought that one was great, but there's a rule: if you're on the show, your review cannot be pulled.
That's totally fine because I just said it out loud.
There
But
you
like,
You get the best of both worlds. You get to sound very clever. It's good.
I love Dune. It's so good. It's so good. Oh my god, Dune. Also, final thoughts. This has nothing to do with Dune, but like, if I'm ever back, I will sound better. I promise. I'm in the middle of moving, and so there's nothing soft in this room yet, and so it's just.
I think you're coming up for Little Women, aren't you? Unless you're ducking out on us.
Yeah, in May.
No, I was gonna. Spoilers. Okay. Surprise, folks. This is.
Oh, I mean, you should come. You should totally come on again, Becky.
How we do it. We don't tell anyone what the guests are going to be, and then we're like, spoilers. Like you're telling people about the episode. Like
that's why I was like, if it's
the
kind of
little
like the
suspense,
opposite.
Right?
That I'm here to talk about a big worm, and then I'll be back to talk about Little Women. Big worms, little.
They're little compared to the worm.
The two genders.
Yes. Compared to the worm, everybody's very little. Yes.
Yeah.
Women, little men, all of them. Little Fremen. Yeah.
The bigger the worm, the littler.
Little Fremen. Where's that crossover?
They kind of had one.
Oh man, if I had a sketch comedy show, I would absolutely put a Little Fremen sketch in. Yeah. It'd be like for 3 people, but I don't care.
And 2 of them are on this panel right now.
Exactly. Most of them are on this screen.
It needs to also be
Timothy
like a
Chalamet and Florence Pugh in Little Fremen.
It
Absolutely.
needs to be like a Fremen version of Gone with the Wind.
Yeah, sure.
Ooh.
Gone with. I'll workshop it, but
Yeah, we'll workshop it off air. Yeah.
All right, Andy. Final thoughts.
Yeah, I know the last time we covered Dune, I actually ended with the question, will this movie stick the landing? And the answer is yes. Unabashedly yes. Because there was that doubt we were even going to get this movie. So just imagine like watching that first one and never seeing anything else again. Like that was a weird moment, but I love the fact that they actually did space out the 2 films. Like they didn't film it all at once, which I know, like since Lord of the Rings, that's what everybody's been trying to do.
And that's what Disney wanted to do originally.
Yeah. Which on one level actually makes sense because you get everybody like everybody's contractually obligated to be there. Like Stilgar looks different between the 2 movies. I don't know what the difference is, but there is a difference between Stilgar in the first one and Stilgar in the second one. But the thing is, though, is because of that, they had that time apart from it. I think that made this movie a much stronger film than it could have been, because it actually worked out a few of the little problems I had with the first one. Mostly the fact that the first one was just a beige movie.
The second one, he's just he's lost the game of chance, with like the old guy in the hardware store, and he's stuck in the post losing a game of chance world. I love that Josh Brolin and fucking Javier Bardem are both are like supporting characters.
That's right. Yeah. I kind of forget Javier Bardem like kind of disappears into the role big time here. I kind of forgot. I was like, oh yeah, that was him.
That it's him.
Yeah. And I mean, Brolin's very good too. But Brolin's a little more Brolin-y,
Yeah.
You don't ever forget it's him, but it's okay.
Yeah. Aside from Christopher Walken too.
Exactly. I almost expect him to give the watch speech, but it'll be about a space watch.
Yeah.
I put the sandworm up my ass.
I put this ring up my ass. If your father wanted you to have it.
Oh my God! Just having him play the Doctor in the first one.
Become the Empress.
I had to hide this from the Hakonans.
I had to hide it somewhere private.
I didn't want to tell you about my role in the fall of the Atreides. He was like a son to me, but I still had him killed. Anyway, Conan.
Please, thank you. This pays off all of the somewhat laborious setup of the first one and then some. It's a very forceful, powerful film that insists on showing and not telling. I think it's pretty stunning. I think it's going to be a Best Picture nominee, and it absolutely deserves it. My chief complaint with the first one was with both the Timothée Chalamet character and Zendaya's character. I never felt like either of them really had it in the first one, but I was pleased to note that was part of the performance, especially for when Paul Atreides becomes Muad'Dib, the hero of legend, and that he changed the performance in a way that reflects better on the first one retroactively. It's pretty stunning stuff. There's so many scenes to call out that I love in this, but it's an immersive and engrossing world, and it delivers in a way I haven't seen in a very long time. And this entire show is a relentless advocate for making movies shorter, myself inclusive. But this one not only justifies the runtime, it feels like it's about a half hour long to me. So I think if you love movies, yeah, I think it's shocking if someone could not get something out of this. Frankly, shocking to me.
People are gonna really be into Messiahs after this,
This is the one that's gonna push it over the edge. Messiahs are so hot right now.
All right, and with that, I'm gonna ride a sandworm into the desert, and yeah.